Hello everyone, it is December 15th, 2020. It's Tuesday, it's Harp Tuesday. And I thought for this episode, what I do is kind of a classic episode where I'm going to take a piece of music, look at it, and just talk about how to play it and some of the fingerings and some of the phrasing and aspects of it. So I'm going to talk about this wonderful arrangement of Poor Wayfaring Stranger by Carol Kappas. And I've recorded it, so let me play that for you. So it's a beautiful arrangement, and I think if you sign up for her email list, she'll send it to you. It's also part of her book, Gentle Tunes for Healing Harps. And check out her website because she's got a lot of wonderful books and arrangements. In the video description down below, you'll see the link. But what I want to talk about is this arrangement of Poor Wayfaring Stranger. So it's got this nice little intro, and this little starting bit in the left hand is actually a little pattern that I talked about in an episode a month or two ago, this 5-note pattern. So we have some different fingering options, right? For sure, we're going to start by going where's my pencil? We're going to start by going 4, 2, 1 on those first 3 notes. But then we can cross under to 2, 1 or 3, 1 or even 3, 2, depending on what feels most comfortable to us, right? So, or 3, 2, or, 3, 1, 3, 2. For me, I kind of prefer 3, 1. So 4, 2, 1, 3, 1. And something interesting here in the right hand, because we have 1, 2, 3, of course, in a row. 1, 2, 3. But then we have a repeated A, so I would prefer to come off and switch to 2. And I guess that's for a couple of reasons. One is, by default, of course, we have to come off because we're repeating this A. We can't connect to the A. So we have to come off. And by default, a single note is played with 2. But also, it can be quite nice to switch fingers on repeated notes if we have time and that's feasible. So in this case, 1, 2, 3, 2 works perfectly. And now it's interesting because on this second bar, again, we're going to start with a 1-5-8 shape, 4, 2, 1. But now this time we have an additional 3 notes instead of 2, so it's quite clear that we're going to go 4, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Right, so that 1-5-8 shape and then just 3 notes in a row like a scale. And because of that, it gives us an interesting option then in terms of the first bar and the second bar. So we could then, because we're going to go 4, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, does that mean we want to go 4, 2, 1, 3, 2 on the beginning bar? Should we cross under to 3, 2 there? And I can see arguments for doing that. I can also see some arguments for not. By doing, say, 4, 2, 1, 3, 1 or 2, 1 on the first bar, it actually could help separate those two bars in our hands and in our memories that, okay, the first one and the second one. So if we're crossing 4, 2, 1, 3, 2, we might be expecting to play the thumb after that in the first bar. So yes, we could do 4, 2, 1, 3, 2 each time and connect to that thumb then on the second bar, or we could switch them up a little bit and kind of separate them a little bit. So for me, 4, 2, 1, 3, 1, and then 4, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. And we basically just repeat that. There's a little intro. The other thing to think about is thinking about the dynamics. So dee-da-da-dum, this little phrase, I would like to do kind of a little bit of a crescendo, and in fact, we might even think of that crescendo as starting a little bit earlier. Maybe the left hand helps us out as we go up. And then we're coming back a little bit. So we got a bit of a hairpin, a bit of a crescendo, decrescendo maybe through those two bars. And I wouldn't do a lot of it, like I wouldn't make a lot of it, but just something to think about in this little dee-dee-da-dum. And making sure that we don't lose the first day. We don't go, but that the second A should probably be a little bit softer than the first A, especially because that first A is in the weak position, right? It's on an and. This one here is on an and so we want to give it a little bit extra attention, whereas this is on the downbeat, so we'll hear it easily. So anyway, we got this lovely little intro, kind of sets us up, and then we got this little grace note, and I realize I'm playing that grace note kind of as a Baroque grace note, where it's actually starting on the beat. So instead of taking time away from the end of this this note, right? Instead of coming kind of here, oh, I think I got the wrong tool. Instead of kind of coming here, right before the beat, I'm starting on the beat and then playing the E right after the beat. So it's almost as if this is a broken chord of two notes, right? And I just kind of like the sound of that. I'm almost even breaking the whole thing. Of course, you could do it before the beat. So just some options there. Anyway, so we get into the tune and we get into this left hand accompaniment. So what you'll see on this first page, this first time through the verse, the left hand is just playing half notes, and it establishes this beautiful pulse, this beautiful beat throughout, right, throughout this piece. And of course, we could potentially take a lot of time with this and maybe stretch some stuff. For me, it really seemed to call for this very steady pulse, this very steady beat throughout that just leads us on and on and on. Noticing here, right, we have three notes at the end of this bar and three notes, but remember to think past the bar line, and so this little phrase here, instead of going 3, 2, 1, off, 1, 2, 3, we don't have a ton of time here, right? These are all eighth notes, just an eighth note worth of time. So it makes a lot more sense to go 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So to connect, place 2, 3, 4. It's maybe a little more challenging to do a really crisp 2, 3, 4 than it is 1, 2, 3, right? So that's something, I mean, we should be able to do it, right? We should have control over all the fingers and be able to do something like that with any combination. But 3, 4 can be a little bit difficult to go 3 and then 4. So something that might require a little bit of practice. Of course, it's slow enough that we could jump down to 1, 2, 3, and if 3, 4 just doesn't end up feeling comfortable, that's a fine option. But I think the most efficient way is definitely to connect there. And then, of course, because there are no fingerings, going in and just maybe writing a few reminders. So, for example, that this is a 4 here because it's the end of the line, end of this line, and we see 3 notes, and we're in for a bit of a surprise. Oh yeah, so 4, 3, 2, 1. So just being aware of that. Think about the left hand, the different shapes. So it's a 5th, and remember 5th, 6th, whatever. If we want to know the shape, we just find the shape, start from the bottom note string, and count how many strings, including the top one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 5th. Next chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a 6th. So 5th, 6th, 5th, 6th, 5th, 5th, 5th. And here at bar 10, I would suggest playing that E again with a thumb. Kind of gives a consistency because we've gone 1, 3, and to just go 1 there as well. And it helps maybe just being aware of, we don't want this, because it is just a single note now instead of a chord, to sound like it's part of the tune. But that we have. So just being aware of that separation. There's a spot later on in particular. Yeah, there it is, bar 14. I think that was the one where, again, just trying to make sure that this note here sounds like the accompaniment and not part of the tune. Right, it's like, this could sound as if it's part of the tune, but then we end up it not working out. That's a little spot there. So those repeated notes. Again, I would just, in this case, just go 3, 3, 2, 1. A bit of a sloppy looking 3 there. But so I would go ahead and find all of these. I think. Actually, I'm not quite sure there whether I actually maybe come off. Okay, I think I do come off on that first E, and then just drop back down and do 3, 2, 1. But you could certainly place all of them and place the third finger twice in a row. One last fingering spot would be here, 15, 16, bar 17. So again, this is a tie. We're not playing that. 1, 2, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes in a row, but it's perfectly set up to do a slide. So we do 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Some other possibilities, I suppose, but I think the slide is perfect there. And then we just kind of make our way down and finish this off, and we get once again this little. And I'll mention again, you could, so for example, at the end of this verse at bar 21, so from 20 we've gone. You could suddenly get softer on this tune and a little bit of a separation if you wanted. Again, you see how it sounds, record yourself, but right here, so you play this chord, and then you could kind of have a bit of a breath and a sort of subito piano here in terms of suddenly being a little bit softer and gentler. We've had this. that is an option. Could potentially sound okay. I didn't end up really doing that. And again, these are the things where experiment with that. Record yourself, because it's hard to tell sometimes when you're playing. It might sound good, but it might not. But just to double check, it's always safest to record yourself and listen back in terms of that phrasing. So then we move on to the second page, and you could just end here, right? We could end on that first page, do that little intro, and here's this little ending. We do that, we do it again. Or of course, experiment with some other ending of your own, right? You could definitely, there's lots of scope here in this piece, right? We kind of get a great framework, and then of course feeling free to adapt that as we might wish. But this is a beautiful second verse through, where the right hand, I think, I'm actually not 100% sure, but I believe it's exactly the same. So the right hand's the same, great. But the left hand now, instead of doing these half notes, we're going to do some rippled accompaniments. So starting here on bar 29, right, we get, there's nothing wrong with saying, oh, a bunch of ledger lines. Let me just write this down if it's not automatic, because one of the ways it starts to become automatic is seeing it enough times. And so if you don't often get a note that is that high, that many ledger lines, it doesn't hurt to just write it down and tie that note to that letter in your mind. So that's a G, and this is an F. This is obviously then an E. We don't necessarily need to write that. And it's a 1-5-9 shape, right? So F, C, F might be our expected note for an octave, but we're on a ninth. And trying to go, 4 to 1, 2, 3 to connect right back down. Sorry. We could go 4, 2, 1, cross the thumb over 2, 1, 4, right? We could go 1, 2, and then cross the thumb to that E, which would let us then connect it to the start of the next bar. And again, it kind of depends on how fast it is, right? And how your hands are feeling. So for me, I was quite happy just to jump down, because it requires maybe a little bit of more work and planning and preparation to again, that's the thing about sometimes connecting, is it's more efficient and it lets you play things at a greater speed, but sometimes it requires more initial work, more initial investment, as it were. So if these were all eighth notes, I would definitely want to connect. I wouldn't want to go, I wouldn't have to jump at that speed. Like if that was the speed I wanted to play those notes, or if those quarter notes were faster and that was the speed I wanted to play them, I would connect. But as it was, I found jumping down was not a problem. But anyway, just a couple options there. Here, just being aware, right? So it's a 1-5-10, right? D, A, F, 4, 2, 1. But this F is also the grace note, right? Same note. So we just have to delay the thumb for as long as possible. Basically, as we play the A, we put the thumb on the F. You could certainly slide into this E158 shape, but for me at least, it doesn't feel as fluid or as comfortable as just coming off. A slide does mean that you don't have to risk buzzing with the back of the thumbnail when you find that E. But I just, it didn't feel comfortable to me, but it might feel comfortable to you. Again, I would write a reminder and I got rid of all my notes, so I had a clean copy here as I was doing this episode. I would put a reminder 4 there, and here as well, 1, 2, 3, 4 on this bar, so that again. To make sure that I had that 4th finger as well, and then I'm going to jump to the next. Though we could again try to kind of connect into that next bar, but there's that same little bar, same little shape, and you'll notice that this bar and this bar and this bar start the same. Like these notes here are different every time, but the beginning, this one doesn't have the grace note here, but the left hand is the same, and the thumb note, the D, is the same. So we get just something, again, anytime you can notice a little pattern. It can help you when you get there not think, oh, what are these notes? It's like, oh, I've done that before, right? I've done that before. And then when we get to this spot, bar 36, or I guess pick up into 36. In the recording that I did, in the little video I did, I chose to kind of bring the volume down a little bit. The left hand has gone back to those half notes, and the higher register made me want to get a little bit softer, in part because I think it's a little bit unexpected. Like it's been building, we've got all this. Could be quite intense, but instead, sometimes it can be quite effective when people are expecting something intense to instead make it gentle. And I didn't really experiment with them, but you could experiment with trying to break a 2-note chord. You could try that. Again, I'd play this single note A with a thumb, slide. Sorry. So again, if you want, potentially sort of a bit of a tenuto, a bit of a pressure marking on those notes, beam, beam, boom, boom, the last time we'll hear that little phrase, or not, keep it pretty rhythmic. This, right, we could get a bit of a crescendo here, back to it's been soft, and then coming down, and then we get this lovely ending, and thinking about how you want to shape that as well. Again, I think a lot of scope here for playing it. So again, you could I don't know. I think lots of chance to kind of improvise or to do your own take on some of this, but a beautiful framework, and beautiful just as is, right? Just this lovely accompaniment that I think really works so nicely. What I love about Carol Kapas's music is that the shapes just fall so nicely under the hands, right? There's all these beautiful, yummy shapes, as she likes to say, I think. And so it sounds great, and yet it's also very easy and accessible to play. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that. A beautiful piece. So check out her stuff. And if you're watching this right now, on December 15th, 2020. I'm doing a live stream winter solstice celebration on December 20th. So I'll put a link to that down in the description as well. And I'll see you in 2 weeks for another Harp Tuesday episode. Cheers.